In a flash of shattering glass, onlookers react to a sudden accident, prioritizing getting an injured child to the hospital. A reflection on the incident suggests the victims may have intentionally thrown themselves in front of the carriage and had no family. A dark-haired woman lies bleeding, lamenting her perceived uselessness and a life sacrificed for nothing. Her despairing thoughts conclude that her death would simply be mistaken for a suicide. As bystanders tend to an injured boy, prioritizing his treatment over the woman's, she cries, questioning why she's always treated so unfairly. Her final tear transforms into a brilliant column of light, ascending into the cosmos. The tear lands in pristine water, creating a splash in the shape of a royal crown. Reborn as a young princess with platinum blonde hair and a crown, she wonders if her wish was truly granted. A smiling brown-haired maid announces that her favorite sweets have been prepared. The maid presents a lavish meal to the little princess, who thanks her quietly. The princess eagerly picks up her utensils, ready to enjoy her first royal meal. A strange, small, gray creature suddenly appears on her plate. The creature furiously declares that those who don't work don't get to eat, shocking the little princess. Holding a mop, the creature calls the princess a shameless brat and demands she start cleaning, to which she protests her royal status. The creature relentlessly orders the distressed princess to scrub and dust everywhere, yelling at her to move faster. Overwhelmed by the cleaning demands, the princess's crown emits a dark energy before the scene shifts to a desolate village. The blonde-haired girl awakens upside down on a simple bed, sighing as she realizes the luxurious life was just a dream. She kicks her feet in the air, fondly recalling how delicious the food in her dream was. A pink, ornate storybook appears, hinting at a tale of romance. A mustached man ushers in a blindfolded nobleman in a pristine military uniform who asks to see a child. The blonde-haired girl, now in simple clothes and holding a broom, reflects on the vast gap between nobles and commoners in the Damaros Empire. She sweeps the dusty grounds, deciding to be grateful for what she has rather than worry about the hopeless state of the empire. The mustached man approaches, sternly reminding her of his rule. No work, no food. The girl angrily retorts that she is working hard and tells him to stop yelling. He dismisses her complaint and announces a visitor, leaving the girl to mutter about his smug attitude and wonder who it could be. A handsome, red-eyed man with blonde hair appears, dressed in a regal red-caped uniform. The man introduces himself to the stunned girl as her father, Bernardo Halbish de Heartfinder. Shocked to hear the famous family name, the girl recalls her past starvation while her stomach growls, reminding her of the hunger she felt when she first arrived in this world. She shyly introduces herself as Isolette to the man identified as Bernardo. Isolette gives an expectant, blushing gaze, cutely wondering if he's stunned by her appearance. Bernardo simply remarks that she has grown, causing Isolette to fall over in disbelief at his flat reaction. After confirming her identity, Bernardo announces he will take her in, handing the mustached man a bag of money and relieving him of one less mouth to feed, to Isolette's horror. Isolette inwardly screams in protest, questioning if her own desires matter at all. Riding in a carriage with Bernardo, Isolette quietly poses a question. She asks him directly why he took so long to come for her. Bernardo looks away, explaining that finding information about her was extremely difficult. Isolette sits alone, realizing her existence was deliberately hidden and feeling conflicted about her complicated new life. A close-up shows Bernardo's gloved hand resting over his heart, near an ornate red brooch. Isolette reflects that a real father would have shown emotion, and his willingness to skip a DNA test proves her identity is merely a convenience. Bernardo states bluntly that this is a deal, then reveals his own 8-year-old child died just 2 days ago, shocking Isolette. Isolette processes the shocking revelation that his child is dead. With a memory of a dying child behind him, Bernardo coldly tells her not to pity him, insisting he isn't bothered.
Though he claims indifference, his trembling, clenched fists betray his inner turmoil over the recent loss.
He callously declares he can simply have another child, a statement Isolette believes with chilling certainty. Isolette thinks he is just like her father from her past life, a man fundamentally lacking in humanity, unfit to be an heir. A dark vision shows Bernardo on a throne of thorns, with a voice declaring someone so inhuman cannot inherit the title, a sentiment he seems to accept. As they approach a grand mansion, Bernardo implies that because he cannot love his own children, he needs her for another purpose. The two sit in silence inside the carriage, an unspoken tension between them. As he departs the carriage, Bernardo secretly hopes that by raising her properly, he might be able to regain his own lost humanity. Isolette agrees to go with Bernardo. She feels apologetic for being given to a stranger.
A close-up shows Bernardo's ornate uniform and confident smile.
His gloved hand reaches out to her. He takes her hand as she looks up hopefully. Bernardo states he no longer needs to buy a family, as Isolette realizes his intentions. She clenches her fist, believing this is a real chance. Overjoyed, she suddenly hugs him tightly around the waist. Bernardo looks down at the little girl hugging him. They arrive at an immense and beautiful mansion. Inside, Isolette marvels that the house is even more incredible than she imagined. Awaiting them in the grand hall are rows of staff, as Bernardo announces her arrival. Overwhelmed by the crowd, a nervous Isolette realizes she underestimated the scale of the household. Stressed but determined, she resolves to do her best. Bernardo orders the staff to clean her filthy outfit and make her presentable for dinner. He firmly states that it's a rule for the family to dine together.
Isolette smiles brightly and agrees, calling him father.
She privately wonders in shock if she was really that dirty.
Before a maid, she admits that she might smell a little. 3 serious-looking maids stand before her, ready to take charge. The green-haired maid leads her away with an intimidating gaze. Isolette follows, gulping nervously.
She recalls the mustached man's warning about differentiating between cruel people and those who feign kindness.
She realizes that telling them apart is her key to survival here. Watching the maids ahead, she resolves not to let her guard down. Isolette reflects that her new status doesn't matter, as she's still just a commoner to them. She walks with a somber look, expecting the maids to eventually start bullying her. She forces a tentative smile, preparing for the worst. A bang sounds as a door opens, and a maid with a sinister smile declares they have Isolette to themselves, making the girl wonder if the bullying is starting already. To her surprise, 2 maids smother her in a joyful hug, gushing over how adorable she is. Dazed by their affection, she's told her precious face must be from Lord Bernardo. She is quickly whisked away by the enthusiastic staff. The maids excitedly present a frilly new dress for her. With her eyes spiraling from the sudden whirlwind of activity, she wonders if she's even awake. As the maids ask her to look in a mirror, she's stunned by its enormous size. Isolette stares in awe at her reflection, now in an elegant new dress. Her adorable face is framed by a beautiful bow and soft blue roses. Blushing with embarrassment, she peeks at the maids, who ask if she likes her transformation. The head maid admits they got carried away, prompting Isolette to wonder about Bernardo being the eldest son. The head maid, Leatrice, introduces herself, confirms Bernardo has a younger brother, and offers Isolette a gift. She is offered a beautiful lollipop with raspberries inside.
Leatrice explains that all the servants pitched in to buy her the most popular sweets in town.
Isolat finds their kindness strange for people she just met.
The head maid smiles warmly at her. Isolet eyes the gift with a suspicious pout.
She turns away as Leatrice offers her the lollipop. Another maid gushes over her cuteness while Isolet thinks it's just the first day.
Rushing through a corridor, she worries about being late for her first family meeting.
She grows dizzy as the impossibly long hallway stretches on.
Finally feeling at ease, she smiles as her nervousness melts away.
Isolet peeks into a grand hall, spotting a small, silhouetted figure. She wonders aloud if the boy didn't hear her.
The boy jumps in surprise, confused by her sudden appearance. Determined, she decides she can't let him get away.
She lunged forward with a triumphant "Gotcha!" grabbing the startled boy.
Hanging onto his back, she smiles sweetly as he stands in shock.
Isolet beams with an adorable, triumphant expression.
As the boy looks annoyed, she notes his jet black hair and red eyes.
The young boy stands stoically, framed by an elegant floral background. A family tree reveals the residents: Sylvanus, his sons Bernardo and Eloise, and their children, including Isolet. The narration clarifies that Iqua is the son of Eloise and Sinaloa, a character only mentioned in the novel. A vision of a handsome older Iqua reveals he becomes a genius swordsman at 15. Thinking he'll be a useful ally, she decides to get on his good side.
Iqua abruptly shrugs her off, startling her.
He turns and asks if she needs directions to the dining hall.
He coldly informs her that as a stranger, she has no right to join the family for meals.
Isolet thinks that, like his uncle, the nephew is quite spoiled.
She retorts that she doesn't need his approval, shocking Iqua with her boldness. Framed by yellow flowers, she points at him with a confident smile. Iqua looks back, flustered by her declaration. Standing her ground, she says she hasn't accepted him as family yet either. The two children face off in the vast, empty hall. She asks if he plans to fight a smaller child, calling him cheeky in response. A blush spreads across his face as he misinterprets her words as a compliment. He quickly turns away from her, flustered. A maid cheerfully asks if they're already getting along, much to Iqua's horror. A flustered Iqua stands beside a giggling, cat-eared Isolet. The maid gently chides Isolet for getting so lost. Isolet is stunned to learn from a map that her room was right next to the dining hall all along. Iqua condescendingly calls her an embarrassing sister with no sense of direction, leaving her speechless. Furious at his rudeness, she thinks there are better ways to make a point. Steeling her resolve, she remembers this is her first time meeting her family. She takes a deep breath and approaches the glowing doorway of the dining hall. A white-haired man at the head of the table acknowledges her arrival.
She sees the rest of the family seated at the table, watching her.
The grand dining room is filled with family members seated for a meal. Isolet offers a polite and adorable curtsy. A beautiful blue-haired woman smiles kindly, identified as Iqua's mother. After quietly thanking her, Isolet turns her attention to the man beside Iqua. She sees Iqua's father, Duke Everoqua, who refuses to even look at her. His overbearing presence makes her think her own father and Iqua seem cute in comparison.
Iqua's mother kindly asks Lord Bernardo about Isolet's age.
An awkward silence hangs in the air as Bernardo hesitates to answer. Isolet is shocked, realizing her own father doesn't know how old she is. She impatiently urges the nervous Bernardo to hurry up and answer. Isolet announces that she is 9 years old, much to Iqua's surprise. Iqua angrily stands, scolding her for her earlier behavior, but she retorts that his wasn't much better. The air instantly freezes as a stern voice calls out Iqua's name. As Iqua shrinks under his father's gaze, he quietly apologizes.
Isolette observes the tense interaction, noting how distant the father and son seem. A dark-haired boy and blonde-haired girl stare at each other as she thinks that noble life isn't always happy. The little blonde girl wakes up with a big, happy yawn. She clenches her fist with determination, ready to meet the first person. She smiles as she watches the dark-haired boy run ahead of her.
A dark-haired man punishes the boy, ordering him to run 20 laps, which he obediently accepts as Isolette notes the family's seriousness.
The dark-haired boy begins his punishment, running laps in the large courtyard. As he runs, a voice calls out his name, Iqua.
Isolette, now in a ponytail, joins him and suggests they run together.
Iqua asks what she is doing, and she explains that she is taking the punishment with him.
She tells a silent Iqua that she's running because she wants to, not for his approval.
Iqua suggests that she should call him older brother, leaving Isolette surprised. A spark of excitement appears in her eyes at his suggestion. After she asks why, a blushing Iqua wonders if she truly wants to be family with him. Iqua quickly denies it, as Isolette realizes he's simpler than she thought, and her plan may work.
Isolette beams with a bright, triumphant smile.
Iqua stops in his tracks, looking flustered by her reaction.
A narration explains Iqua is taught swordsmanship by his father, Eloise, the Imperial Knights commander.
The story reveals it focuses on the family head, Sylvanus, and she knows little about Eloise. She hopes that learning swordsmanship from him will reveal information about the household. Eloise's voice declares he won't teach useless children, as Isolette correctly predicts his refusal. Iqua warns her that the sword is dangerous, but she earnestly asks him to teach her. A dark thought explains that what can't be gained by discussion must be taken by force.
Isolette stands proudly, ready to make her move.
She stands with her back to a confused Iqua.
Iqua tells her that he's not a complete amateur with the sword. With a thumbs up, Isolette declares she'll challenge her uncle to prove her resolve, shocking Iqua as she thinks provocation is her only choice.
She confidently approaches the flustered Iqua.
Standing before the imposing dark-haired man, Isolette addresses him as father.
Her smile falters as Eloise glares down at her with a grim expression.
A dramatic flare announces that it's over.
A cute purple-haired character marks a brief interlude in the story.
The man's presence looms as Isolette's voice calls out to her father.
Isolette looks up in shock as a powerful energy crackles around her.
Struck with fear, she thinks to herself, "I'm doomed." The stern-faced Eloise asks his son, Iqua, to explain the commotion. While Iqua looks down, Isolette thinks her uncle is both terrifying and beautiful. The two children look on with confused expressions.
A simple drawing depicts Eloise's stern glare at Isolette.
Eloise asks his niece if she really challenged Iqua to a duel.
An unseen Iqua asks his brother if he is sure his daughter is sane.
The blonde-haired Bernardo arrives on the scene, looking serious. Isolette desperately hopes Bernardo will defend her sanity.
Bernardo observes the scene as both children look toward him with anticipation.
Isolette wonders hopefully if her new father is on her side. Bernardo turns to the children and remarks on Isolette's considerable confidence. Facing his brother Eloise, Bernardo calmly proposes a wager.
Bernardo smiles, confident in his proposition.
He offers exclusive rights to his siege weapons, shocking Eloise, who questions staking territorial management on a duel between children. Bernardo agrees to the deal, adding that if Isolette loses, Iqua can attend his swordsmanship class.
Isolette thanks Bernardo, acknowledging she is in his debt while thinking he's the most difficult person to understand.
Bernardo smirks, thinking they underestimate his capabilities. The scene transitions with a soft floral pattern.
An ornate golden lamppost stands against the sky. Kneeling, Bernardo notes Isolette's surprising self-assurance.
Isolette shyly confirms she understands the stakes of her victory.
A voice promises a reward of 500 gold coins.
Bernardo places a supportive hand on her shoulder.
With dollar signs in her eyes, she joyfully shouts, "Father."
A hand grips a wooden sword as a voice reassures her.
Isolette happily holds her sword, dreaming of training and money.
Bernardo questions if she even knows how to hold a sword.
A voice sets the terms, a single-strike duel for victory.
Isolette and Iqua face off as their fathers watch.
She confidently announces, "En garde," as a serious Iqua prepares.
In a memory, a voice prefers facing poorly trained opponents. A tavern owner named Gunther explains the weakness of those bound by chivalry as Isolette listens.
Eloise and Bernardo observe the children from the sidelines.
Isolette charges forward with surprising speed.
Iqua stands his ground, ready to defend.
She unexpectedly leaps into the air.
Her unorthodox move shocks Iqua and the onlookers.
Gunther's voice explains that chivalrous fighters expect fair tactics.
Isolette lands a powerful headbutt on a stunned Iqua.
Shocked, Iqua can only utter, "You." She tackles him to the ground, pinning him.
Biting his ear, she thinks she knew how he would react.
Flustered, Iqua demands to know what she is doing.
A cute illustration shows her clinging tightly to him.
A bang sounds as the match is declared decided, leaving both children dazed.
Iqua protests his loss, but a voice reminds him of the rules.
Eloise coldly tells his son that in a real fight, he would be dead, cementing his defeat.
As Iqua calls it a dirty trick, Eloise clears his throat.
Eloise smiles, praising the effectiveness of catching an opponent off guard.
He asks a confused Isolette if her hero taught her such a method.
She nervously admits her teacher was Master Gunther, a tavern keeper.
Eloise understands, then tells a silent Iqua it's time for his real training.
As they leave, Isolette wonders if Eloise knows Gunther.
Bernardo and Isolette share a silent, meaningful look.
He kneels down and gently pats her head.
He playfully ruffles her hair with a satisfied look.
Isolette looks up at him with wide, surprised eyes. She realizes what she truly needs at this moment.
A deep, sinister laugh echoes in the darkness.
A mysterious, long-haired man finds it amusing that she defeated Iqua.
He declares his eagerness to meet this interesting child. The scene shifts as a voice mentions "my granddaughter."
The man laughs again, delighted by the amusing girl.
Hooded figures report Iqua's loss, and the man clenches his fist upon hearing about the underhanded trick.
The man contemplates the meaning of an underhanded trick.
Seated on a throne of thorns, he declares there is no dirty play in a true match. A hooded figure challenges the group, asking if dying for honor is preferable. Before the long-haired man on the throne, a hooded figure offers his deepest apologies. The kneeling figure thinks that once you're dead, honor is meaningless, as every match has only two outcomes. The long-haired man smirks, declaring the only outcomes are to win or be defeated. The hooded figures look down, defeated.
As Sylvanus walks away, he muses he might get along with his granddaughter, while a subordinate asks where he is going.
A faint smile appears on Sylvanus's face. The scene transitions to a smiling Isolette, framed by pink flowers. Isolette stands alone before a pair of grand golden doors.
Now in a new dress, she stands with determined confidence.
A maid informs Lady Isolette that her request has been prepared.
A memory flashes of Bernardo gently patting her head.
In the memory, Bernardo gazes at her with a serious expression. A voice announces there's something to do first as the doors swing open.
Isolette is overcome with joy at the sight of an all-you-can-eat buffet of sweets.
She excitedly notices that all the cakes are unique. She realizes the incredible spread was handmade by a pastry chef. In a chibi thought, she understands Bernardo arranged this just to observe her. She happily takes her first bite of cake. A blissful expression spreads across her face as she savors the taste.
Bam! She suddenly collapses face first onto the table as the maids cry out in alarm.
The maids frantically ask if she's okay, worried about poison, but she reassures them she's fine. Covering her face, she explains the taste was so good it made her black out, confusing the maid.
The maids decide to leave as Isolette thanks Ria.
As they walk away, one maid remarks that Isolette must have endured a lot.
The maids agree they must keep sweets ready to ensure her happiness.
Isolette continues to happily feast on the table of desserts.
Her peaceful meal is interrupted as she looks up, puzzled.
A small, dark-haired girl in a plaid dress suddenly appears. Isolette is startled, wondering where the little girl came from.
Her surprise turns to adoration as she thinks the new girl is incredibly cute.
She realizes this must be Iqua's little sister.
Smiling warmly, Isolette asks for the little girl's name. The girl stares longingly at a strawberry cake, drooling slightly. Holding out a plate, Isolette asks if she wants to have some. The little girl's adorable nod makes Isolette's heart melt. Puzzled that a noble girl would want sweets so badly, Isolette offers her the cake.
The little girl nervously accepts the plate. Isolette beams, overjoyed by the simple act of sharing.
The little girl looks up, stunned by Isolette's kindness. A maid rushes in, dropping a birdcage in utter shock. The two girls look up, startled by the maid's panicked reaction. Crash! The maid smacks the cake to the floor, where it shatters. A stunned Isolette grabs the maid's arm, demanding she wait. The maid explains that the little girl, Lady Lucia, has a frail body.
She reveals Lucia is forbidden from eating sweets due to her medicine, leaving Isolette horrified.
A sad, pink background filled with crying, bandaged kittens appears. Lucia's expression reveals how desperately she wanted the cake. Isolette looks at Lucia with deep sympathy. Her heart breaks, thinking how cruel it is to be a noble who can't even eat cake. The sweet dream of a cake shatters completely. Lucia sits alone in a room, drawing intently.
Isolette quietly watches as Lucia draws on the floor.
With a gentle smile, Isolette approaches her. Lucia looks up, surprised by Isolette's presence.
Ta-da! A small, beautifully wrapped pouch is presented.
Isolette offers the gift to a very confused Lucia. She explains that it's a specially made, safe-to-eat cookie.
Isolette beams, happy to have found a solution.
Clutching the pouch, Lucia looks up, deeply touched. Crete!
Lucia frantically scribbles a thank you note.
She proudly presents her drawing, but Isolette looks confused. Flustered, Lucia admits she's sorry she cannot read. Isolette thinks that even if she could, the scribbles are incomprehensible. Lucia pushes the drawing closer, insisting she look again.
Isolette studies the drawing with a curious expression.
Suddenly, her face lights up with joyful understanding. Overcome with affection, Isolette pulls Lucia into a hug. The drawing reveals two stick figures hugging under happy hearts. Later that night, Isolette admires the drawing, thinking it's adorable. She wonders how Lucia and Iqua can be siblings. Smiling, she concedes that Iqua has his cute moments too. Isolette decides Lucia must learn to read and write. Hicks, she resolves to help her as a fellow noble lady.
The scene shifts to a dejected Iqua sitting alone outside.
As she approaches from the garden, she calls out, "Iqua?"
A quiet evening settles over the grand estate.
Isolette peeks from behind a bush as Iqua broods. She worries, wondering what he is doing out there. Startled by her sudden appearance, Iqua jumps to his feet. He defensively shouts, "Who's there?"
His defensive posture softens as he recognizes her voice.
He says her name, Isolette, as she cheekily tells him he almost hit her. She asks what he is doing all by himself.
Leaning close, she teases him, asking if he was crying.
A blushing Equa quickly denies her accusation.
His flustered reaction is shown in acute animation.
She sits beside him, gently asking what's wrong. He begins to speak, looking at her with a troubled expression. He suddenly reaches out and takes her hand. A gentle, decorative ribbon marks the quiet moment.
Iqua holds her hands, his expression full of sincerity.
Isolette is stunned, wondering why he would ask her for a favor. She asks him what kind of favor he needs.
Iqua confesses he has been unable to focus since their duel. He's haunted by the feeling that his hard work has been meaningless.
He calls her move a dirty trick, but admits he's still lost.
He feels lost, wondering if he has been on the wrong path.
His confession leaves Isolette speechless with shock.
He worries that without talent, he can never protect the empire like his father.
Isolette asks Iqua if he's planning to quit.
Her question leaves Iqua completely bewildered.
Determined, she declares she won't give up and has a favor.
She explains that his current lessons alone aren't enough.
She boldly asks him to let her meet his master.
A confident smile spreads across Iqua's face.
A twinkle of admiration appears in Isolette's eyes. She finally understands why the Count held him in such high regard. A vision reveals Iqua's destiny to become the strongest swordsman in Barrows.
The scene shifts to a bustling, sunlit town.
In a crowded street, the two children navigate in hooded cloaks.
Iqua calls out to a distracted Isolette. She turns back, her face lit up with excitement. He reminds her to call him Big Brother and explains their cloaks are a disguise.
He warns that as nobles, they would immediately become targets for criminals.
Ugh, a hand suddenly grabs Iqua's arm. The grip tightens around his wrist. A voice muses that with their cloaks, it's impossible to tell who is older.
Iqua scoffs, turning his head away in annoyance.
Isolette whispers that they are almost through the dangerous area.
A tall figure suddenly blocks their path, looking down at them curiously. A scarred man smirks, realizing two noble brats have just fallen into his lap. They panic, realizing their disguises have been completely seen through. Iqua steps forward to protect her, but suddenly hesitates. He frantically realizes he dropped his wooden sword as the thugs close in. Iqua tells Isolette to run on his signal, but she worries about him being unarmed. He insists she escape while he creates a distraction, leaving her distraught. Without warning, Isolette sprints away, and the thugs yell in pursuit. She runs, realizing her only hope is to reach Master Gunther's shop for help. She trips and falls, looking up to see a red-haired man questioning her presence. Horrified, she sees the thugs have already captured Iqua. The red-haired man's eye glows with intense fury. With swift strikes, he effortlessly takes down the thugs. Gah! The man holding Iqua cries out as he's struck down. A thug lies defeated on the ground as a voice scolds them for not listening. The red-haired man, now identified as Gunther, scolds the defeated thugs. A gentle moment passes as the dust settles.
Isolette cheerfully greets Master Gunther, much to Iqua's confusion.
Gunther acknowledges them, noting it's been a while. He suspiciously asks how a noble child knows his name, confusing Isolette. She wonders if he's already forgotten her as they stand in the alley. A recruitment notice for various roles appears, inviting readers to join the team. Gunther bursts into hearty laughter. He finally recognizes her as Isolette, remarking on how much she has grown.
In a tavern, Gunther jokes about her getting kicked out, much to the children's annoyance.
Isolette introduces Iqua to Gunther, mistakenly calling him a girl. Flustered, the boy corrects her, proudly stating his name is Iqua. She turns back, surprised by his sudden declaration.
Gunther thoughtfully observes the two children huddled together.
Gunther notes Ikwa's training, and the boy makes a quiet plea. She confidently asks if he can afford her expensive fee.
Ikwa panics when she asks for a fee, and Isolette is shocked he has no money.
Realizing she also has no savings, Isolette despairs over a vision of gold. Someone hands her a heavy pouch, which she accepts, promising to repay the debt. The red-haired man, Gunther, agrees to teach Ikwa, calling it a worthy investment. He offers a discount of 500 gold coins, delighting a surprised Isolette. A spotlight reveals 9-year-old Isolette Heartfinder's current funds are 0. Gunther notes Ikwa's familiar face, and Isolette asks if he knows Lord Eloise. Gunther's eyes glow red as he reacts angrily to Eloise's name. He repeats the name Eloise with disdain.
He dismissively asks, "What about that jerk?" surprising the children.
After Isolette explains Eloise is Ikwa's father, Gunther is reminded he was a noble from the Count's family. Remembering a bloody battlefield, he grimly asks, "So what?" He explains that on the battlefield, rank is meaningless. Ikwa reveals Eloise used Gunther as bait, shocking Isolette. Enraged, Gunther points to his scar, blaming Eloise despite being his superior officer. He concedes it's fine since they won, as the children look on nervously. A memory reveals the normally calm Eloise turns wild at the sight of blood. Gunther sternly warns Isolette to never let him see blood. Startled, Isolette gets an idea. Clutching her milk, she realizes this is essential information for her new life. She clenches her fists, filled with new resolve. Gunther stares down, lost in thought as the children look up at him. A cute illustration shows Gunther lecturing the two attentive children. Isolette thinks about cute things with a confused expression. Her confusion manifests as a surreal landscape of giant roses. Back on the road, she's glad Lord Gunther gave her enough money for the trip home. Recalling Eloise's secret love for cute animals, she feels flustered. She admits to Ikwa that she hasn't gotten close to her own father yet. When Ikwa agrees, she asks him on what basis. A flashback shows a blonde man writing at a desk. Isolette suspects she was used to gain waterway rights with her father's help. Ikwa franticamente denies her accusation. He insists her uncle doesn't make high-risk deals. He explains her father agreed because the deal included exclusive siege weapon rights. The scene shifts to a grand, gleaming castle. Isolette looks up, beginning to understand. A memory flashes of her father's gentle hand on her shoulder. Ikwa tells her she is lucky her father trusts her. He sadly recalls his own father's disappointment. Isolette smiles, now realizing how brave Ikwa truly is. Ikwa sits quietly, his expression somber. His somber look softens into a gentle smile. A grand castle is shown, framed by beautiful yellow flowers. Arriving back, Isolette sighs that the trip took longer than expected. Fearing a scolding from Leah, she rushes inside. A dark presence seems to follow the two children. Sensing danger, Ikwa tries to stop Isolette, but she hurries to open a door. He grabs her as they both stare forward in shock. Amidst thorny red roses, Eloise lies unconscious as someone calls out, "Father." A horrified thought bubble asks why Eloise has collapsed. A man's polished shoes steps forward, announcing he is finally back. Isolette and Ikwa look up at the imposing figure of a long, white-haired man. Isolette's eyes widen with shock and apprehension. A powerful, white-haired man holds the collapsed Eloise, identified as the world's strongest person. The white-haired man smirks, sitting on a throne surrounded by glowing blue roses.
His name is revealed to be Sylvanus Harand Heartfinder. The servants look on in terror as Sylvanus's name is announced. The children face the man readers consider the strongest in the world. Sylvanus sits with an air of absolute authority, surrounded by ethereal flowers. Reading about him, Isolette is stunned that he looks even younger than she expected.
She feels an overwhelming and intimidating presence emanating from him.
In the grand hall, the children confront Sylvanus's powerful blue aura. Cradling the unconscious Eloise, Sylvanus calmly invites Isolette to have a seat.
Isolette panics, thinking that sitting there would cause a huge misunderstanding.
She wonders what he expects her to do when he's so handsome. Sylvanus offers a gentle, disarming smile.
With new resolve, Isolette decides she has no choice but to use that move. A pink floral transition marks a shift in her strategy.
Isolette puts on her most innocent and adorable expression.
A puzzled Sylvanus looks on as the servants watch in confusion.
Iqua scolds Isolette for disrespectfully sitting on her uncle.
Sylvanus waves a hand dismissively, claiming he was just teaching Eloise the house rules.
Misunderstanding, Isolette shouts at him to get up and show his elders some respect. She runs forward, enthusiastically calling him Big Brother.
The servants gasp in shock, while If Quiver coils in pure horror.
As Isolate hugs the man, a bemused Sylvanus wonders what is happening.
A narrator notes that no adult dislikes being called young, even with flattery.
An example shows a mother delighted by her young daughter's affection.
Isolette anxiously wonders if her flattery will work on Sylvanus. She desperately hopes her plan succeeds. A bright, cheerful sound marks a sudden change in atmosphere. Her plan works perfectly as Sylvanus bursts into a hearty laugh. Wiping away a tear, he chuckles, asking if she calls her grandfather Big Brother. As Sylvanus and the maids laugh, Isolette celebrates her successful plan.
Sylvanus finds his granddaughter amusing, but his expression darkens as he remembers he cannot move.
Isolette is suddenly terrified, recalling Eloise went to the battlefield without permission.
She trembles, recognizing the crushing pressure as the same killing intent from before.
Iqua rushes to a gasping Isolette, who struggles to breathe under the immense pressure.
The memory of Sylvanus looking beautiful now seems terrifying.
Staring into his glowing red eyes, Isolette is consumed by fear. A gasp escapes Iqua's lips as he steels himself, refusing to be overwhelmed. The surrounding servants are frozen in terror. Mustering her courage, Isolette forces herself to her knees. Sylvanus's red eye twitches, surprised by her defiance. Iqua clenches his fist, thinking it's wrong to sit on an elder. He thinks it's especially wrong when it's your own son, Eloise. A memory flashes of a younger Iqua, determined and ready to fight.
Iqua stands protectively before Isolate, shielding her from the pressure.
A voice calls out Iqua's name in shock.
Isolette turns, asking why he would go so far for her.
She realizes Iqua must find their grandfather more terrifying than his father, Eloise.
The two children stare blankly, utterly confused.
A memory shows Sylvanus giving a much younger Isolette a small dagger.
In another flashback, Sylvanus holds her hand amidst a field of glowing blue flowers.
A flustered butler-like figure reacts with alarm.
Thump, thump. Isolette looks down, her heart pounding with anticipation. The white-haired man offers his hand with a confident smile. The scene shifts to a vast and magnificent palace.
Sylvanus sits with Isolette, gently braiding her blonde hair.
Contrary to her expectations, she finds her grandfather's presence comforting. A flashback shows Sylvanus cheerfully greeting her whenever he had free time.
He tutors her at a large desk, though she seems less than thrilled.
Sylvanus announces the emperor has requested troops for a war with Babylonia. Isolette soberly notes that their allies, Barros, are at a disadvantage. She quietly thinks it's pointless to send soldiers to a war they will lose.
Realizing it would be a death sentence, she worries her comments sounded too unchildlike.
Hee. She playfully tells him that if she were a soldier, she would resent him.
He asks for her advice on how to refuse the emperor, leaving her bewildered.
Stressed, Isolette struggles to think of what to say. Sylvanus admits he was ignoring the request anyway, which infuriates her. Announcing he's done, he places a bonnet on her head. She stares at her reflection, surprised by her newly braided hair. She admires the beautiful butterfly ribbon on her dress. A cascade of white flowers marks a gentle transition. She adorably compliments her grandfather's amazing braiding skills. Isolette is shocked that the world's strongest man is so dexterous. He explains that all members of House Heartfinder are skillful. He tells her that as his blood relative, she should be dexterous too. He presents her with a thick, locked book on the theory of sovereignty. Demanding an answer at their next meeting, he leaves her thinking this is child abuse. She shocks Sylvanus by blurting out that she can't read. He calmly asks if that's so, making her think he looks disappointed. In his mind, however, he thinks his granddaughter is incredibly cute. Isolette bites her lip, a flicker of resolve in her eyes. She clenches her fist with determination. Standing tall, she prepares herself for the challenge ahead. She realizes this situation presents a unique opportunity. She imagines how a child who never had a chance to learn would be viewed.
Sylvanus lets out a thoughtful,
He gives her 3 days to learn, much to her dismay. She panics, wondering how she can learn to read and write in just 3 days. Bargaining, she frantically holds up 3 fingers. Smirking, Sylvanus counters by holding up 2 fingers, offering only 2 days. A wave of horror washes over her as her soul seems to leave her body. He reminds her that while she carries their blood, her ability can't be proven so quickly. Isolette stands beside the thick book, ready for her test. Sylvanus smirks, awaiting her response. Sitting at a grand desk, she accepts that this is a test she always knew was coming. She vows to prove Sylvanus wrong in 2 days. Her confidence quickly turns to dizzying frustration. Overwhelmed, she admits she needs a teacher. A voice interrupts, asking about her progress. Dikwa enters the library, finding her stuck. She brushes him off, sparking his anger. He asks if she just wants him to leave. He offers to help, repaying her earlier kindness. Thump, her heart stirs at his offer. She joyfully launches herself into his arms. She clings to him in an exuberant hug. He's completely stunned by her sudden affection. He reminds her to call him Big Brother. Eagerly, she asks him to teach her Barosian. He agrees, amused by her enthusiasm. Teehee. The lesson begins with 2 eager students. Huh? She questions why another girl, Lucia, is there. She looks at Lucia, confused by her presence. A childish drawing illustrates their study session. A second drawing shows a cheerful student. Isolette watches the lesson with a thoughtful look. Realizing Lucia is here for support, she hugs her. She beams happily, embracing her new friend. Iqua points out she's mixing up the letters. Frustrated, she complains about the difficult alphabet. She recalls a political problem, getting distracted. She asks for his help with a diplomatic issue. She refocuses, determined to master her studies. A montage shows them studying hard together. As sleepy Iqua stirs in his bed, he finds Isolette still studying late at night. He's surprised she's still working so hard. He smiles, impressed by her dedication. She continues to study, lost in her work. The day arrives, and Sylvanus awaits her. Isolette stands ready for her grandfather's test. She faces him with a determined expression. He looks down, his expression unreadable.
Steeling herself, she clenches her small fist.
Her friends watch from the doorway for support.
She takes a deep breath, admitting her nervousness. He begins his test with a grand statement.
Startled, she looks up from the open book.
He smirks, stating that mere reading is simple.
He explains the high expectations for their family.
She's stunned by his declaration.
He unexpectedly tests her on political strategy. He waits expectantly for her brilliant solution.
She stares, utterly speechless at the real test.
"You're kidding me," she thinks in sheer panic. Overwhelmed by the complex text, she collapses onto her books.
She recalls studying for 2 sleepless nights.
Dejected, she feels her hard work was for nothing. Meanwhile, her grandfather waits with patient amusement. He rests his chin on his hand, enjoying her struggle. The feeling of being unloved washes over her. He mockingly asks if she is unable to answer his question.
Flustered and defeated, she can only stammer.
In the vast room, she feels small and powerless.
A memory of Iqua helping her studies surfaces.
Iqua mentions their grandfather's friendship with the emperor, but Isolette senses something is off.
Contemplating his words, she forms a new strategy.
She boldly states he shouldn't worry about the emperor, catching him off guard. She reminds him of their well-known friendship.
She declares he is more powerful than the emperor himself, a man even royalty dare not defy.
With newfound courage, she asks who he truly is.
Her friends watch in utter shock at her boldness. A narration reveals he is the most powerful figure in the world. He questions how a former commoner could know his secrets.
Caught off guard, she stammers, searching for an excuse.
She quickly claims she learned everything from books and newspapers.
She explains she pieced it all together from public records.
Her grandfather listens intently, his expression unreadable.
"So, how's that?" she asks, awaiting his verdict.
She desperately wonders if she has finally been accepted. Tense, she clenches her fist in anticipation.
She looks up, her eyes filled with hope. A radiant smile finally breaks through her nervousness.
In her heart, she silently thanks her friends for their support.
A slow, knowing smirk spreads across his face. The moment of truth arrives in the grand study. He looks upon her with a gentle, approving smile. He praises her performance before continuing his judgment. His expression suddenly turns sharp and intense.
Thump. He suddenly shouts her name, startling everyone in the room.
The force of his outburst sends her stumbling backward. The shock is too much. She collapses unconscious on the floor.
As her consciousness fades, she believes she has finally been accepted.
She later awakens, safe and sound in a comfortable bed.
A butler assures Sylvanus that she'll be fine after some rest.
Her grandfather watches over her, contemplating her surprisingly insightful answer. She stirs slightly, mumbling in her sleep.
Hoofed, she lets out a huge, adorable yawn.
He stifles a laugh as she sleep talks about wanting more strawberries. Her cute dream talk makes him burst into a warm, genuine laugh. A gentle hand on her head wakes her from her sleep. Her eyes widen in surprise as she sees who is by her side. She sits up, confused, finding her grandfather and the butler watching her. A vision of a beautiful, sunlit library fills her mind.
The butler remarks that even his own sons were never treated with such kindness.
The butler remarks on Sylvanus's unprecedented kindness toward his granddaughter. Fully recovered, Isolette sits up with a bright, cheerful smile. The scene transitions to the grand, sunlit exterior of the family estate. A cute doodle depicts a girl sweeping near a house, watched by an angry face.
The doodle continues as the cleaning girl is startled by a tall, noble figure.
An illustration shows a large hand gently holding a much smaller one.
She reflects on her determination to survive in the Count's family.
A bright light shines upon the magnificent castle.
Isolette reads a book, noting that Sylvanus stopped visiting after that day. She feels dejected, wondering what she should do from now on.
Two children, Iqua and Lucia, appear with cheerful expressions.
Lucia leans in and whispers, asking Isolette to play hide-and-seek.
Isolette is internally bewildered by the childish request.
Her mind spins with comical confusion at the suggestion.
She strikes a determined pose, accepting the challenge.
Lucia looks up at her with large, hopeful eyes.
Lucia ropes a reluctant Iqua into the game, who insists they play alone.
Isolette teases him about wanting to be the seeker, and he frantically denies it.
She smiles to herself, admitting he's fun to tease.
As she begins to count, Iqua hides his face in embarrassment.
A character quickly runs down the hallway.
Isolette happily runs out of the room to find a hiding spot.
She dashes down the hall, looking for the perfect place.
Whoosh, she runs straight into two finely dressed men, startling them.
Stunned, she sits on the floor, looking up in a daze. Believing them to be visitors, she is surprised by their knowing glances. She overhears them identify her as the commoner child Lady Marianne mentioned. Confused, she wonders who Marianne is and if these men are nobles. Their friendly expressions vanish, replaced by cold contempt as they mock her.
She feels their blatant condemnation as they tower over her.
Deciding it's too tiring to deal with them, she prepares to leave.
She stands and walks away, ignoring one of the men calling after her. They sneer about her lacking manners, attributing it to her commoner background. Smiling serenely, she finds gratitude in having been born a commoner. Enraged by her comeback, one man grips the hilt of his sword. The blonde-haired man draws his sword, intending to punish her. She shuts her eyes and flinches, bracing for the impending strike. A cold voice questions their audacity in attacking a child of the family. Iqua appears, sword in hand, protectively shielding Isolette from the men.
Isolette beams, overjoyed by his sudden appearance.
Iqua identifies the men as Marianne's retainers and questions their actions. Isolette is stunned, sensing an unfamiliar power from him.
A powerful blue aura surrounds Iqua as he confronts the two men.
She marvels that he can already wield swordsmanship energy at his age. Terrified, the men hastily claim they were just kidding around.
Iqua accepts their apology, but declares they won't escape responsibility for harming Isolette.
The two men flee in terror, begging him not to tell the head of the house. The crisis averted, Iqua sighs in relief while Isolette watches him. He turns to her, his expression softening with concern.
Overwhelmed with gratitude, Isolette gives him a heartfelt thank you.
She wonders if he truly used swordsmanship energy to protect her. She worries that using such power would strain a child's body.
He feigns ignorance, asking what she's talking about. She reconsiders her observation, thinking she may be mistaken. She recalls that Iqua isn't supposed to wield such energy until he is 15. He clarifies the danger he spoke of refers to the entire mansion. She listens intently to his serious explanation. He reveals their clan's influence surpasses even the imperial family. Because of their power, many nobles try to curry favor with them. The family's symbol is shown amidst a bed of purple flowers. He explains that their grandfather doesn't offer special treatment to anyone.
She is surprised to learn the Heartfinder family has many nobles under its control.
Thump, thump. She realizes that powerful image suits Sylvanus perfectly.
She mentions the rumor of their grandfather's retirement, questioning its validity. He explains that their fathers are now vying for the position of family head.
As a result, the different factions began fighting in secret.
To manage the conflict, their grandfather declared the mansion a neutral zone.
Isolette processes the complex political situation with a worried expression. She considers that this information might give her uncle an advantage.
She asks Iqua to keep her knowledge a secret, puzzling him.
She insists it be their secret for now, but he remains hesitant.
He realizes she must have encountered the hostile retainers and rushes off to find her hiding spot.
A heartwarming memory of a smiling, brown-haired girl surfaces.
The story pauses for a brief promotional intermission.
Iqua throws open the curtains in panic, shouting about Lucia's disappearance.
He fears Lucia was taken by those men while she stands beside him in despair.
Isolette calls out Lucia's name, her expression filled with dread.
She clenches her hands, desperately wondering where Lucia could have gone. They search a beautiful conservatory, calling for Lucia to make a sound.
Isolette blames herself, but Iqua urges her not to.
A sudden realization strikes Iqua.
The scene shifts to a lavish, sunlit bedroom.
Inside, Lucia sleeps peacefully, hugging a stuffed rabbit.
Both Isolette and Iqua are shocked, as Isolette was certain she saw Lucia hiding elsewhere.
Isolette stares in utter disbelief, while Iqua crosses his arms, looking baffled. A relieved Isolette embraces a very confused, sleepy Lucia. She hugs her friend tightly, vowing to protect her from now on.
Iqua watches them with a gentle, warm smile.
Isolette remembers sitting happily on her grandfather's lap.
She realizes the recent attack was motivated by her closeness to Sylvanus.
In bed, she reflects on how her simple actions unintentionally sparked jealousy.
Her eyes narrow with newfound determination.
She sighs, thinking that becoming a noble is much more difficult than she imagined.
A pair of sturdy black boots signals a shift in her routine.
A chibi Isolette complains about being exhausted after just one sword lesson.
Walking down the hall, she's stopped by someone calling her name.
A beautiful woman with long, silver-blue hair smiles warmly at her.
The elegant lady waves, acknowledging Isolette's morning sword training. The story pauses for a moment to credit the artists. Leaning down, the woman asks Isolette if she has a moment. Isolette politely tells the silver-haired lady she'll make time for her.
The lady, Sinaloa, wants to discuss the incident from the other day.
She invites Isolette and Lucia for tea, leaving Isolette momentarily confused.
Sinaloa beams with excitement at the prospect of their tea party.
She admits she's wanted to befriend Isolette, praising her kindness.
With a double thumbs up, she enthusiastically expresses her hope for friendship.
A flustered Isolette shyly admits that she built the playground equipment herself.
Sinaloa gasps, completely charmed and amazed by Isolette's skills.
She confesses that other nobles never understood her own similar interests.
Isolette listens, surprised to find they have something in common.
The scene transitions to a beautiful garden where Sinaloa stands.
Isolette, now in a lovely dress, joyfully exclaims her love for the garden. Sinaloa smiles warmly, happy that Isolette shares her sentiment.
A spark of understanding and excitement passes between them.
They clasp hands as Isolette eagerly agrees to her unspoken proposal.
At a lavish tea party, Sinaloa invites the girls to enjoy the sweets.
Isolette happily takes a bite of cake, thanking her host.
Seeing Isolette's delight, Sinaloa giggles happily to herself.
Isolette looks up from her plate with a satisfied, blissful expression.
She worries her eating face was weird, but Sinaloa thinks it was something else.
Sinaloa makes an exaggeratedly cute face, asking if Isolette looked like this.
Isolette is utterly stunned by the woman's playful imitation.
Sinaloa clarifies she found it cute, loving the contrast with Isolette's usual demeanor.
Embarrassed, Isolette resolves to be more mindful of her manners.
Sinaloa brings up Isolette's social debut, and Isolette sees an opportunity.
She tentatively begins to ask the woman a question.
Sinaloa's friendly expression suddenly vanishes, replaced by a cold stare.
Her eyes glow with an intense, unsettling energy. Isolette panics, wondering if she asked a bad question.
She realizes she has never seen such a dark expression on her face before.
An oppressive, dark aura fills the room as Sinaloa sits in silence.
The story pauses for a brief promotional message. A shocking revelation appears. This woman tried to kill Iqua. The chilling atmosphere intensifies, signaling a dark turn. Isolette is horrified by the memory. She tried to kill Iqua? A flash of insight hits her as she suddenly remembers everything.
The woman's full identity is revealed. Duchess Marianne Ashford.
A flashback shows a younger Marianne with the late Duke. After the Duke's death, Marianne was suspected of being his murderer. Though acquitted for lack of evidence, the scandal was widely known.
Isolette recalls hearing the rumors as a commoner girl.
Marianne explains people avoid her because she's considered eccentric.
As Isolette processes the murder suspicion, Marianne reveals her fixation on Sylvanus. Isolette is shocked to learn the Duchess's obsession is her own grandfather. She wonders if Marianne is in love, but Marianne calls it admiration and romance.
Isolette questions why she would harm Iqua, the grandson of the man she admires.
A vision of Iqua in his formal regalia flashes in her mind. She speculates Marianne attacked Iqua out of jealousy for Sylvanus's attention.
Marianne calmly confirms her theory, praising her quick thinking.
She explains Sylvanus doesn't show favoritism, making his recognition highly coveted.
A flashback recalls a party where a vase fell directly toward a young boy named Iqua as people screamed warnings.
Lady Marianne and her attendants were present at the scene, which was dismissed as a mere accident.
A young Isolette listens, thinking that because Marianne is so meticulous, no evidence of her involvement could be found. The light blue-haired woman clenches her chest, insisting that there is no doubt it was Marianne. She claims Marianne despises her and warns Isolette that she could also become a target. Grabbing Isolette's hands, she makes her swear to never get involved with Marianne under any circumstances. Though she promises, Isolette thinks that just because Marianne was present doesn't make her guilty.
Isolette reflects on her first meeting with Marianne, wondering if she acted too carelessly.
The woman thanks Isolette for believing her and suggests they return to her room as dusk settles.
As they open the doors, they pause, wondering about the source of a commotion inside. A maid nervously addresses the woman as Lady Sinaloa, who asks what has happened. The commotion is revealed to be the sudden, shocking arrival of Lady Marianne. Lady Sinaloa angrily scolds Marianne for arriving unannounced and with improper etiquette. Peeking from behind Lady Sinaloa, Isolette thinks to herself, "So that's her." Marianne smiles serenely, surrounded by an aura of beautiful pink flowers. Isolette thinks Marianne looks less intimidating than she expected, and asks what brings her here. Marianne declares that she has come to apologize to Miss Isolette. She explains that she heard her subordinate was terribly rude to Isolette the other day.
As a gift box is opened, it reveals a large, spiky yellow fruit inside.
Isolette recoils, her face a mask of disgusted shock at the sight of the gift.
Marianne explains her subordinates acted under a misunderstanding and have been warned not to be discourteous again.
Lady Sinaloa suspiciously asks if Marianne is claiming she didn't order them to do it. Marianne calmly notes that Lady Sinaloa is as cold to her as ever. Turning to Isolette, Marianne says she's aware of the rumors and understands the circumstances look suspicious.
Marianne looks down with a gentle, remorseful expression.
Isolette is confused, thinking Marianne is not what she expected, and wonders how she is supposed to judge her. Lady Sinaloa accepts the gift and dismisses Marianne, but Marianne says she has other business. Marianne states she needs to speak with Lord Sylvanus about troop deployment, and his aide confirms he returns tomorrow morning.
When Marianne decides to wait, an outraged Lady Sinaloa demands that she leave at once.
Marianne calmly refuses, stating that she is acting on orders from His Majesty the Emperor. Lady Sinaloa tells Isolette to return to her room, promising that she and the guards will keep a close watch.
Isolette decides she needs to go back to her room and collect her thoughts. Back in her room, a maid with light blue hair brushes Isolette's hair at her vanity.
Staring at her reflection, Isolette thinks of Marianne. She reflects that Marianne didn't seem like a bad person after all.
She wonders if this is all a misunderstanding, just like a twist in one of her novels.
The maid, Rhea, wishes her lady a good night. Tucked into bed, Isolette waves and wishes Rhea a good night as well.
Isolette lies awake in bed, her expression thoughtful. She turns over in her bed, facing the large doors of her room.
Lying in the dark, she wonders if a sound she heard was just her imagination. A creak is heard as Isolette quietly gets out of bed and approaches the doors. A sound from the door catches her attention as the doors begin to open. Her eyes widen in shock as she recognizes the person entering her room. Creak. The silhouetted figure of a woman in a formal dress stands in the doorway. A hand reaches out as a tear of fear forms in Isolette's eye. The shadowy figure of Marianne enters the room as Isolette calls out her name in question. Her red eye widens in terror as a hand reaches toward her in the darkness. The menacing silhouette of Marianne looms in the doorway of the dark room. The scene transitions through a thick, dark, and thorny forest. A smiling, silver-haired lady identifies Isolette's room. Isolette looks up, startled by the unexpected visitor. The woman apologizes for the fright, explaining she got lost looking for the drawing room.
Isolette admits she was startled by a visitor at such a late hour.
The lady politely asks for directions to the drawing room.
After Isolette gives directions, the woman thanks her kindly.
She offers a final apology for the late disturbance.
Isolette watches her leave, thinking she seems surprisingly gentle.
The woman asks Isolette if she's settling in, and Isolette confirms everyone has been kind. As she mentions Lord Sylvanus doting on her, a hand grips a doorknob.
Isolette boasts that her grandfather gave her exclusive access to the forbidden study. As Isolette confirms she can use it freely, the lady's face darkens with envy.
Her hand reaches out as she menacingly asks how Isolette got so close to Sylvanus. She grips Isolette's chin, demanding to be told the secret.
Huh?
A terrified Isolette stares, shocked by the sudden aggression.
The woman's expression softens as she laughs, dismissing it as a joke.
She wishes Isolette good night, leaving the girl deeply unsettled by the encounter. Alone again, Isolette realizes the woman's demeanor changed the moment she mentioned her grandfather. She recalls being warned that the woman has an unhealthy obsession with Sylvanus and once harmed Iqua. A chilling realization dawns. If she targeted Iqua, is Isolette next? She resolves to uncover the woman's true identity to protect everyone.
The next day, Isolette walks through the hall with a heavy sigh.
With dark circles under her eyes, she admits she couldn't sleep a wink.
She replays the woman's threatening questions, trying to understand her motives.
Her expression hardens with determination.
As she walks, she overhears maids gossiping about how shameless someone is, suspecting an attempt to poison Lord Sylvanus.
She peeks around a corner and sees Marianne, wondering if the gossip is about her. The maids whisper, mentioning that Marianne knows how to compound medicines. They reveal her hobby is creating new drugs and using people as test subjects. A maid voices her concern over the potential side effects of such experiments. She points out the suspicious nature of Duke Ashford's sudden death despite his good health.
The memory of the late Duke's sudden death hangs in the air. The maids conclude Marianne killed him for his fortune, a rumor the Duchess has clearly heard.
They now fear she might be targeting Lord Sylvanus, a revelation Isolette overhears in horror.
Isolette realizes Marianne's behavior now makes perfect sense, confirming Sinaloa's warning.
Entering the dining room, she sees Sylvanus and considers the dangerous rumors about Marianne.
Marianne sits beside Sylvanus at the table, a pleasant smile on her face.
Isolette wonders why her grandfather keeps such a dangerous woman close as he turns to notice her.
He waves warmly, calling out her name.
Isolette forces a smile and explains she just came to say hello.
Her grandfather immediately stands up, beckoning for her to join him. He lifts her onto his lap and orders the staff to prepare a plate for her. Flustered, Isolette says she was just listening to the maids, wondering how she got dragged into this.
Marianne smiles sweetly at her, asking if that's what happened.
Sylvanus asks if she's heard the rumors, and Isolette nervously confirms she has.
Her grandfather moves to sit beside her, offering her a plate of food.
He brushes off her concerns, insisting she eat and asking what she wants from the feast.
Surrounded by cakes and sweets, a flustered Isolette doesn't know what to choose.
She sees Marianne glaring with the same jealous expression from last night, realizing it's because she's next to Sylvanus. The scene shifts with a bright, starry flourish as someone calls out to wait. Isolette's eyes gleam with excitement before the dessert table.
Her grandfather says he'll move to sit beside Lady Marianne.
She quickly hops down from the large chair to make space.
Marianne glares down at her with an icy, displeased expression.
Isolette realizes she must uncover the dark truth about Marianne. The fragile illusion of kindness begins to crack and shatter. Composing herself, Isolette steps forward with perfect etiquette. She politely introduces herself as the granddaughter of Sylvanus.
Marianne responds with a gracious smile, saying it's a pleasure.
Isolette wonders what's hiding behind that smile, recalling Marianne's eerie apology from the night before.
Sylvanus asks Marianne if she visited Isolette, and she claims she entered the wrong room.
Isolette recounts how Marianne suddenly grabbed her face, making her feel threatened.
Marianne is left completely stunned and speechless by the direct accusation. As Marianne starts to panic, Sylvanus turns to her and sternly asks what she said.
Isolette decides she must proceed formally before things get worse.
She plans to reveal Marianne's lies and have her grandfather protect her. The scene transitions, showing a resolute, innocent-looking girl. She believes exposing Marianne is undoubtedly the safest course of action.
To her utter astonishment, her grandfather bursts out laughing.
An amused Sylvanus asks Marianne if she did the same thing to Isolette. A flashback shows a younger Marianne standing awkwardly before him. He recalls how she simply laughed at him instead of offering a greeting. He remembers thinking at first that she was just being rude. In reality, it was just an awkward encounter between them.
The memory shows she was simply overwhelmed with shyness.
In the present, Marianne admits she's not used to interacting with people.
She clarifies that she only specializes in herbs, not human experiments.
Isolette suspects she's only acting meek to fool her grandfather.
Ahem. Marianne clears her throat, looking genuinely embarrassed.
Sylvanus tells her to rest, and she quietly apologizes for the scene.
From behind a curtain, Isolette continues to watch them. Marianne walks down the hall as Isolette observes from a distance. Marianne correctly guesses that Isolette is testing her in front of Sylvanus.
Her long, silver-blue hair sways as she walks away.
She silently walks on, admitting to herself that she dislikes the girl. Her grandfather turns to her, asking if she's also heard the rumors. Caught off guard, a flustered Isolette struggles to answer.
He gently explains that people often misunderstand Marianne.
He dismisses the gossip as mere rumors, believing she lacks the skill for traceless poison. He adds that if she possessed such a talent, he'd have already given her a position. He explains that the late Duke of Ashford was a degenerate who neglected all his duties.
Marianne, in contrast, was a dedicated and brilliant researcher.
He tells Isolette he chooses the people around him based on talent.
A touched Isolette blushes, understanding the weight of his words. She looks up with newfound determination in her eyes. The scene shifts to a memory of her life in a commoner's town.
2 local boys taunt her, declaring they won't play with her.
A confused young Isolette explains she was just passing by.
A boy cruelly accuses her of being a thief, which she instantly denies.
"Go away," she shouts, as a hand violently shoves her. In a flashback, Isolette demands to know what the boys are doing as they flee, calling her an angry thief.
Left alone, a heartbroken young Isolette wonders why nobody ever believes her.
Her small hand clenches into a determined fist on the dusty ground. Returning to the present, she walks down a grand hallway, her eyes closed in thought.
Suddenly, her red eyes snap open in surprise.
Overhearing 2 maids, she learns Marianne is supposedly resting because she feels unwell. One maid scoffs, suspecting Marianne's illness is just another act. Isolette's thoughts drift as she recalls the rumors about Marianne's humble origins and meteoric rise. The maid whispers that Marianne is cunning enough to poison someone if she needed to.
The accusation leaves Isolette speechless with shock.
She resolves to confirm the rumors, flashing back to how easily she could have gone unnoticed as a child.
She considers that Marianne might be a mistaken shadow, misunderstood despite her suspicious behavior.
The tense atmosphere hangs between Isolette and the gossiping maid. The maids are startled by her presence, calling out in surprise.
Facing the maids, a flustered Isolette stammers, trying to explain herself.
She composes herself, offering them a bright and innocent smile. The scene transitions with a flourish of shimmering blue roses. She reflects that suspecting people without evidence is wrong, as rumors only grow when spoken. The memory of being judged and accused by disembodied eyes and hands haunts her. A woman with long lavender hair gently chides them, saying Heartfinder family members must be careful, prompting an apology from a maid. The elegant lavender-haired woman stands with a calm, composed demeanor. Later that night, Isolette tosses in bed, regretting her actions but still finding Marianne suspicious. As she drifts off to sleep, she realizes her actions were stirred by memories of her own past. In a dream, she sees Marianne and realizes they are reflections of one another. She thinks of Marianne as someone who shares the same scars, and the lavender-haired woman seems to blush. Clatter! A sudden noise breaks the silence, and she wonders what it could be. Lying in darkness, she questions the strange sound.
She awakens with a jolt, realizing she can't breathe as she finds her hands bound by rope.
A muffled gasp escapes her as she discovers she's been gagged. Bound and gagged, she hangs in the air, her eyes wide with terror and confusion. Thrown into the back of a moving carriage, she wonders what is happening. Darkness envelops her as she struggles against her restraints. Bouncing on the floor of the carriage, she realizes with horror that she's been kidnapped. The carriage stops and 2 men emerge as she recalls being taken from her own room. Carried into a rustic building, she deduces her kidnappers bypassed the mansion's security. Dumped on the wooden floor, she reasons her kidnappers must be connected to the Heartfinder family. Her gag is roughly pulled off, and she gasps for air. Sitting up, she defiantly demands to know who ordered her kidnapping. A man with green-tinged hair grabs her face, impressed by her quick thinking, and tells her to wait for that person. His words carry a chilling threat, but behave if she wants to live.
The two kidnappers stand over her, their intentions ominously clear.
A hand tightens on her chin, and she realizes with cold dread that they intend to kill her. Her mind races to identify the mastermind behind this, when a shocking possibility dawns on her.
A mysterious figure in a dark hood enters the room.
The hood is pulled back, revealing a woman with short, light purple hair and a cold expression.
Isolette stares, completely stunned by the reveal.
Her mind screams the name of the culprit, Miss Mary Ann. A door opens into a brightly lit room, shifting the scene.
Sylvanus sits at his desk, calmly reading a book.
His sharp red eye looks up from the book as he thinks of Isolette. A memory shows a delighted Isolette before a table of treats. The elegant, lavender-haired woman thinks it would be better if Isolette followed Marianne's example. Sylvanus reflects that while the rumors against Marianne have gone too far, he doesn't believe them. Bam! 2 guards suddenly burst into the room in a panic. A guard breathlessly reports an emergency, and Sylvanus calmly asks what it is. The guard reveals that Lady Isolette is gone, shocking Sylvanus. Sylvanus demands to know where she went, as the guard reports maids saw her taken by a suspicious carriage. Grabbing his coat, Sylvanus declares he knows where she was taken and orders a carriage immediately.
With cold determination, he announces he will go and retrieve Isolette himself.
Back in the hideout, the green-haired kidnapper mocks Isolette, telling her she's completely clueless. He explains it's because her grandfather always laughs when he looks at her, leaving Isolette speechless.
Marianne tells her she couldn't possibly understand what Lord Sylvanus means to her.
In a flashback, a younger Marianne was ridiculed while making medicine until a hand reached out to her. A memory reveals that the one who saved her was Lord Sylvanus. The memory shows a kind Sylvanus reaching out to a younger, downtrodden Marianne. Marianne angrily accuses Isolette of stealing him, but Isolette tearfully denies it, prompting Marianne to scream, "Shut up."
She thinks to herself that she didn't steal his attention.
Marianne recalls seeing Sylvanus lovingly lift Isolette into the air, her face shadowed with rage. Marianne calls Isolette an eyesore and orders the men to get rid of her. As the men seize Isolette, one questions hurting a child for such a petty reason while she struggles to break free. Isolette realizes with terror that she is about to be killed. Her expression fills with dread and desperation.
Marianne stands silently, her back turned to the scene.
Isolette defiantly tells her captor that Lord Sylvanus won't notice him just because she's gone. She grabs a dagger from a kidnapper's belt, demanding to know what they know about her, while Marianne thinks, "Lord Sylvanus is my everything." As Marianne turns, Isolette stands defensively with the dagger between her and the kidnappers. A flustered Marianne asks if Isolette can understand how it feels to have the one person who ever accepted you look away. As an image of Sylvanus appears, Marianne vows to eliminate anyone who dares approach him. Gripping a sword, Marianne snarls with furious jealousy. Isolette calmly tells Marianne she now understands why people misunderstand her. As Marianne looks stunned, Isolette tells her to stop, explaining that people only judge her by her appearance. She adds that the real Marianne isn't like that at all. Isolette continues, saying she is just like her uncle. She pleads with Marianne not to do this, asking what her uncle would think if he saw her now. Surrounded by ethereal blue roses, Isolette insists that Marianne can still recover from this. Marianne flinches, her thoughts fixated on Isolette's red eyes. Looking at Isolette's resolute expression, Marianne shouts for her not to look at her with those eyes. She covers her face and screams, realizing mentioning Sylvanus's name may have been a mistake.
Isolette looks on in horror as Marianne shrieks that everything would be solved if she just didn't exist.
Marianne screams for her to shut up, completely losing her composure.
A terrified Isolette can only watch the meltdown.
A voice shouts, "Stop it!" as a door bursts open with a loud bang.
Sylvanus stands in the doorway, his expression radiating pure fury.
His eyes fall upon the scene, Marianne with a sword, the kidnappers, and a terrified Isolette. In a swift, decisive motion, Sylvanus draws his own sword. A wave of crimson anger emanates from him, his face a mask of cold rage. The room falls silent as Sylvanus confronts a stunned Marianne. As Marianne utters his name, Sylvanus coldly tells her to prepare for the consequences of her actions. He raises his sword, threatening to show her what happens when you make an enemy of the Heartfinder family. Isolette runs past the confrontation, straight into the safety of her grandfather's arms. She burrows into his embrace, telling him to stay back. A shocked Marianne insists it is all a misunderstanding. Her purple eyes are wide with disbelief and fear.
Sylvanus asks what she saw, and Isolette explains that she saw Marianne.
The scene transitions through a silhouette of thorny branches. With tears in her eyes, Isolette explains she saw Marianne hesitate with the sword and then saw her crying. She looks directly at Marianne, asking if that's the truth. Marianne gazes down at Isolette, her expression softening. As Sylvanus shouts her name, Isolette tells him that she understands too. Her thoughts drift to being constantly misunderstood by everyone. In a memory, she walks alone down a dark alley. She reflects that in the end, she was the only one who got hurt. A younger Isolette stands before the looming shadow of an adult. She recalls standing alone and isolated. A memory of a happier time shows her holding flowers and smiling brightly. Back in the present, a remorseful Marianne looks down, blushing. Isolette smiles warmly, reaching out a hand in a gesture of friendship. Overcome with emotion, Marianne gazes at the kind gesture. As Marianne thinks of giving up her life, Isolette shouts, "No!" Marianne looks down, her face filled with regret and sadness. Sylvanus tells Marianne she must have been prepared for the consequences. "Wait!" Isolette cries out, realizing she must convince her grandfather. Sylvanus gently takes Marianne's hand as she looks up in surprise. He offers a kind smile, surrounded by a warm, floral aura. He gently tells Marianne not to make any more foolish choices as she cries. Isolette realizes with relief that her feelings reached him. Sylvanus and Marianne stand together in the moonlight. Marianne makes a solemn vow to never disappoint him again. Sylvanus holds a content Isolette in his arms. Marianne watches them from a distance, a serene smile on her face. The scene follows Sylvanus as he rides off on his horse. Marianne's peaceful expression is framed by beautiful flowers. A memory shows Sylvanus lovingly holding Isolette. The scene transitions to a bright, sunlit day. The narration explains Isolette returned safely, and Marianne received a 3-month restraining order. The story returns to the Grand Heartfinder mansion. A maid looks on in shock, carrying a large bundle of items. Isolette is stunned by a mountain of presents, wondering why there are so many. She discovers even more gifts piled up nearby. Utterly bewildered, she stares at the room overflowing with presents. A maid nervously explains that they are, once again, from Lady Marianne. Ever since the kidnapping incident, gifts have been arriving non-stop. Another beautifully wrapped present is shown among the pile. The narrator notes that one gift in particular is meant to be special. A hand holds out a small, sparkling red box. Curious, Isolette opens the special gift. Her expression instantly changes to one of horror. A maid excitedly points out that the gift is a jewel the same color as her eyes. Inside the box is a grotesque, bloody jewel that looks disturbingly like an eyeball. As Marianne smiles sweetly, Isolette grimaces in disgust,
realizing her rival is completely unhinged. A maid looks on as a delighted Isolette sits among her new presents. Elsewhere, Marianne peacefully enjoys cake in a sunlit garden.
She closes her eyes, a serene and happy smile on her face.
The memory darkens to a bloody floor as Isolette gasps in horror.
She recognizes the body of Eloise's father lying before her. The story pauses on a chapter break, showing various characters.